side thing right there, because I didn't know this for 65 years. I didn't know why they gave me away. But my mom was married to a man named Tuck. You remember Friar Tuck in the Robin Hood movie? Well, he's in our lineage. And,
Friar Tuck is?
Yes.
That's a real story?
Yes. He's a real guy. Yeah. Wow. All right, so my mom was married to Tuck, and she divorced him and married a guy named Poole. And she was with Poole and had some kids, and she went back and had an affair with Tuck. And I was born. And Poole said, "That's not my baby, get rid of him." And just an added note, my mama gave my sister Pearl to Aunt Pearl, and my brother Billy to Grandma Pearl. So I got a string of pearls and a brother and sister out of that deal I didn't know I had. Okay, all right, so they gave me away when I was 3 days old, and the people they gave me to, I might go into more details this week, in close quarters and got plenty of time. Yeah. Were Esther and Red. That's who I remember them as. And Esther was my mom, who I thought was my mom. That was my mom. And I was a mama's boy. I loved Esther. I'd be like, you know. And she'd let my hair grow out long, and she'd just brush my hair and spend time with me. And we'd cuddle a lot, and we had a real strong bonding love, if you will. But Red was an alcoholic. He drank all the time, very abusive, and in fact sometimes he would take her hand and put it in a doorway and slam the door, and it would burst the ends of her fingers open. And that would break my heart, because I couldn't do anything about it. I'm only 9, you know, so I would steal his mint gin out of the dash of the car and show it to him and pour it out and run and make him chase me instead of her. And I remember one time I jumped out of a window from the second floor, and I climbed down a rose trellis to get away from him and hid under the house so he couldn't beat me. And so they decided they were going to split up. And I was exposed to a lot of sexual things then too, just to put that on the plate, because I slept on a pallet at the foot of their bed, and I would hear noises, and I would just look up and okay, so and there were times like they'd think I was asleep in the back seat of the car, and they were on a dirt road or something. They would stop, and I could see right through here what they were doing. So anyway, I was exposed to a lot of sexual things as a real small kid like that, and it was confusing, really. Okay, so when they decided to split up, they said to me I had to make a choice whether I go with him or her. Well, that was easy. I was going to be with my mama, buddy. And so I was taking swimming lessons at the YMCA, and he come and kidnapped me to be mean to her. And he took me out to Dallas, Texas, and he went off on a drinking bench for like 3 months and left me with a family I'd never met. But they had a little boy my same age, and I remember we used to catch horny toads and grasshoppers and all kinds of critters and put them in containers and keep them in our room. That was a really cool thing. We had a big shelf of them, and we had watermelon parties. And
I'm sorry, back up. Where was Esther and Red? Where did they live? So Red kidnapped you and went to Dallas. But
yeah, this all started in Washington.
State?
Washington, D.C.
Oh, D.C. Okay,
Next to Maryland.
That's where Esther was then?
Yeah.
Okay.
She lived in Maryland and worked in D.C.
Okay.
They told me my mama's name was Thelma Marie Washington Poole, but it was Thelma Marie Poole that lived in Washington. So the information got, you know, and I didn't have a name on my birth certificate. It was just Baby Boy Poole. So they didn't even name me. And
well, no, I didn't mean your biological mom. I meant.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, all of them were right there.
Yeah.
Okay, so after they got me, they moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. I remember this big house in Charlotte. I remember Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah, where I live now.
Red Nest, okay. Charlotte,
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and
Then you got kidnapped to Dallas, so you're in Dallas now.
yeah. So he just left me there, and then like 3 months later, he came back in the middle of the night, woke me up, and said, "Come on, we're going to New Mexico to my mom's." So that'd be another authority figure in my life, Grandma. Okay, Grandma didn't like me, so he got a job working for Canada Dry, and he was driving a truck. I was the hit of the neighborhood because I could get free drinks all the time and give them to the kids, right? And he went to work one day, and she stapled a little tag on my shirt pocket. I don't know what it said, but she gave me a little brown paper sack with an apple, a banana, an orange, a sandwich, and $1, and put me on the Trailways bus from New Mexico to North Carolina by myself
Oh my gosh.
at 9 years old. Okay, so I'm confused, blah blah blah, hurt, and this and that, but they're telling me. She told me, I'm gonna send you to your mother, and I was excited. So I'm on the bus, and there's this guy in the front seat, and no, I'm sorry, in the seat behind me. And I learned later in life, like when I was in college, what kind of label to put he was a storyteller. So he could take like that cup and tell you a story that would just keep you on the back of the seat, just hinged on every word he'd say as a kid, of course. And I remember this lady came on there with a stainless steel tray with this big strap, and she had Babe Ruths and honey buns and all kind of things that little kids like. So I spent my $1 real quick, and I ate everything in that bag. Now this trip takes days. It don't just point A to point B in a couple of days. It's almost probably a week or something, because they'll go like way over here 1,000 miles and then head to where we're really supposed to go. It was really stupid in those days, and they didn't have as many drivers, so we would take these long layovers, and the driver would rest or sleep or whatever, and we would just eat and shop or whatever. But I didn't have money, so I would sleep so I didn't feel hungry. And the lady came out and woke me up and said, the man sitting behind you said that if you'll come in the restaurant, he'll buy you breakfast. So I run down the stairs, and I'm like, come on, woman. And man, I'm starving. And we go inside, and he said, boy, you just get what you want. I remember those words. Today, I was like, so I ordered bacon, eggs, and grits, and toast, and jelly, and biscuits, and I was putting biscuits in my pocket so I could load up for the trip, right? Because I didn't have any money. And I guess I was smart enough to think ahead. So we eat, and we get back on the bus, and he just keeps me, in a trance about different stories and stuff. And I really like this guy. We're bonding good, And I guess as a kid, I was easily influenced. But then after a while, I say as fate would have it, we had to change buses. So the bus driver took my hand, took me to the other bus driver, and he put me on and usually I sit in the seat behind the bus driver. And so it kind of broke my heart, because I was really liking this guy, and bonded with him. And I was sad for a while as we go down the road. And so after a little bit, it dawned on me, this is the bus that's going to take me to my mama. Now I'm excited, my heart's just pounding. And so as fate would have it, we get there, and mom's not there. But her sister's there, so that's another authority figure in my life, my aunt. And I always say aunt instead of aunt. Some people say it the other way, but I'm an aunt guy, just so you know. All right, so what is that? Is that the trash bag? This gets hard quick. All right, so she said, you're gonna stay with us, and she had kids too, and we played a lot. Oh, and one thing that I missed was when we were traveling to Dallas, Texas, we would stop stay in these sleazy motels. And I say sleazy because there'd be holes knocked in the wall, and I could hear noises, and I'd look in there, and he'd be having sexual relations with the women and stuff. And then stuff stirred inside me I didn't understand. You see where I'm at? All right, so those feelings stirred again with all these little kids when we're playing in the woods, you know. And so we learned to smoke, and I took my first chew of tobacco in Dallas, Texas too, and got real sick. And so after a while, the aunt and uncle pulled a scam of the century on this little boy with me. That they took me to the gas station. They gave me $5 and said pump $3 worth of gas. Well, I was excited. I get to hold the money. You know how kids are sometimes when you first give them money. And back in them days, money was, scarcer anyway. Like gas was 26 cents or something. All right, so I'm excited. I'm pumping gas, and I run in the store, and in the store is another authority figure in my life, my papa. He runs the store, so I trust him. I give him the money. I know he give me the right change, and so I get back in the car, and we go down the road a little ways, and they said, "Where's the other dollar?" And even at 9, I knew that I pumped $3 worth of gas. He gave me $2 in change. So 3 and 2, I don't care if you use your fingers or your toes, is 5. I knew but you can't argue with adults. You'll be chasing a hickory. They'll whoop you, So they said, well, okay, so you're not only a little liar, you're a thief. And we're not going to have a liar and a thief in our house. So tomorrow we're going to take you to social services. So the next day, that's what they did. I didn't know what social services was. I'm just a kid. I wasn't that knowledgeable of the world yet. And so they assigned me a social worker. Okay? He's a big old heavy guy with some snuff stain on his chin. And he said, boy, we're going to put you in a foster home. So I didn't know what a foster home was either, right? But they put me in a home with this man and this woman, and he works in a factory, and she's a stay-at-home mom. And it didn't take me long. Well, I'm falling in love with this lady, because she's so sweet, so good to me. And then after a while, she gets sick, and she goes in the hospital. And I was coming in the living room, and I heard the man say, well, I don't care, I can't take care of the little brat, and you need to come and get him. And that's what they did. They come and got me. And that broke my heart. And it started then that some anger was building inside of me, because now you took me away from my mom. You took me away from this guy I'm really bonded with. Now I'm loving this family and this lady. And the guy gave me a little pocket knife, and I thought that was so cool. And there were just special things that happened at this place that I didn't want to be took away from. And so they put me in another foster home, and these kids were a little bigger than me, and they thought they could pick on me. And one day I just had enough, and I picked up the coffee table and smashed a little boy in the face with it. And the parents said, we can't have a violent kid in our home, you need to come get him. Okay, so this time he puts me on a dairy farm, and I love it there. They got cows and chickens and pigs and rats and possums and squirrels, and we go frog gigging and do all kinds of stuff. Horses, got everything there. I love it there. But the school doesn't allow social service children or the free lunch program. So I can't go to school there, so I can't live there.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, so it's a placement center, if you will, so they can find me another home and put me in a home. So that's what they do. So that goes on back and forth for 14 more foster homes. I did 17 foster homes, 3 orphanages, and a boarding school total. But after 14, I put my foot down. I said, I want my mama. I told this man, I want my mama. And I don't know if he had compassion or he was afraid. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. But I was serious. I want my mama. And I was to the point of there's going to be consequences if I don't get to see my mama. So he said, okay, but we're going to have to put you in this orphanage. And they had a farm, and you had to wear brogans, and you take your brogans off at night and leave them outside to air out, and you sleep in a dormitory. And here's that word. We sleep in the dormitory with all the other kids, and they fart all night long, and I hated it. Okay, they too did. Oh, that sounds real good in my testimony. They too did. So I hated it there, man, for real. So one day the social worker shows up, and he said, "Your mama's down at the playground." Oh my goodness, my heart was gonna jump out of my chest. It was just pounding. And I ran down there, and I'm holding the swing so tight my knuckles are white. And she's pushing me in the swings, and man, it's the beginning of new life for me.
How old were you at this point?
I was 9 or 10. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know my ages. I don't know how long it took me to go through all them stages. I just know it started when I was 9. So I might have been 12 or 14 by then. I don't know, because I've been in different homes. So the social worker looks at me and said, "Now, boy, this ain't your mama, but she's got the option today to adopt you and take you home."
Wasn't your mama?
No.
Did you notice how quiet it got? She wasn't saying anything. And I looked back to see why, and she had her head down, and she said 2 words that changed my whole life. I can't. Right then, right that very minute, hate became malignant in my little body, and I started hating everything and everybody. I hated everything. I hated my teachers. I hated people in the neighborhood. I hated people walking down the street. I hated people in stores. I hated the foster parents. I hated everybody. I hated my social worker. And the hate just grew inside of me, and it grew and it grew. And one day I pulled out a pistol and said, "Bah!" and shot somebody right between the eyes. So I run to my truck, and I pass the cops that are coming to get me. And my little heart's beating just like it was the day in that swing. I remember that heartbeat. But they didn't know it was me. They didn't have a description or whatever. They just knew there was an incident and they were going to it. So I got past them. And I went to one of my foster brothers. And he had grown up and got married. And we stayed in touch. His wife called 911 and said he's here. Right. And he convinced me that I couldn't live running. I thought, you're right. So I put my pistol on one side of the porch, and I sat on the other side of the porch and waited for the cops to come. They never handcuffed me. They just said, "Do you have anything to say?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Go get in the car, boy." So I did. And they took me to jail. Well, the next day they come and they said, we're going to post a death penalty on you. Because a life for a life. It's only fair. And I'm like, okay. So then that hate turned into a different kind of anger, and I'm in jail waiting to go to trial for about a year. And I guess they do that to calm feelings down or something. I'm not sure, but they always wait a long time before they take you to court on that serious a charge. And during that time, I had a court-appointed lawyer. He really did his job, or he had somebody to do their job. They discovered that it wasn't premeditated, so it couldn't be first degree. See? So they had to lessen it to second degree and offer me a plea bargain. And they offered me life, and I wouldn't take a life sentence. But they discovered that there were times when people would come by, these people testified that they would be at my house and people would ride by and shoot at me. And I had a bulletproof storm door installed so I could shoot back and they could see me. You know what I mean? I wasn't scared. I wasn't hiding. I just run out there and bust off caps. We'd do that back and forth. And people would be scared when they come to see me, so they quit coming. And then on my phone was a little bitty cassette tape on the phone recorder, and there were a lot of threatening messages on that. See, so all this stuff added up to it wasn't first degree, and they couldn't give me the death penalty, so they had to give me a plea bargain. So in the end, they said it's 35 to life, and we'll let the judge decide. Well, we get to the courtroom, and the judge just pushed all the papers off the podium down into the floor. He said, "This is first degree, and we're going to try this case." And I'd already signed a plea bargain saying I was guilty. See, so I could just get 35 years. And of course, the lawyers came to can we approach, blah, blah, blah. And at first they're whispering, and now they're almost yelling at each other. He said, "I want to hear all the evidence." So they brought those tapes, they brought those people in to testify, and blah, blah, blah. And see, I could see the judge looking at a picture of the person I shot, and I could see through the paper the image of that person in that dark spot. So I knew he wasn't liking it as a judge, you know what I'm saying? I'm just a criminal. So, but he had compassion, and all the testimony that he wanted to hear obviously made an impact on him, so he only gave me 35 years. Okay? So I left and I go to prison, but while I'm waiting to go to trial, there was an old Bible missionary Baptist preacher who used to come up there with a group of people, right? They had this glow about them that was not cocoa butter, and they sang and were so happy all the time, and it would just stir my mean spirit up, and I'd spit on them and cuss them out. And they said, one day they said, "What would you read?" I said, "Bring me a Bible so I can piss on it and throw it back at you." I was so full of hate that that's who I was. And they brought me a little box of these paperback true crime stories. And as I laid, now they separated me and put me in a single cell because I beat down about 15 people. And I mean, hurt them up pretty good. Waiting, and I just throw them in, I'd knock on the door and tell them to come get them. I said, "What you gonna do, kill me?" Because I had the death sentence. So what have I got to lose? What you gonna do? You know? So they put me in a single cell by myself. And as I was reading in books, I realized I was one of the statistics I was reading about. You know? Their story was, wow, that sounds like a whole lot of what I went through, you know? And so anyway, that preacher, once I got out of prison, he let me come to his church to take the whole service. I said, "I don't need 15 minutes. He said, "Son, you'll take the whole service." Just so you know. All right, so after, like I said, it was about a year waiting to go to trial, I wanted a taste of this Jesus they talked about. I wanted to feel that joy. I've been raised in hate, you know, all my life, and I'm in my 40s now, and I'm still hating on people and destroying lives everywhere I go. I'm getting people strung out on drugs, and I'm shooting other people, you know, I didn't get caught for, and blah, blah, blah. And so there's a whole lot of things I don't take, you know. And so one day I said, I want to know what I got to do to be a Christian. I want to taste just a little taste of this Jesus before I die. And he said, "Son, if you will kneel down right here and say this thing called a sinner's prayer, your life will take a turn." I tried to bust the concrete open. I wanted that. I wanted it bad. I wanted it. And I think part of it was I wanted it so I wouldn't die. You know what I'm saying? When you're to the point of death, you'll do a lot of people don't realize you have the capability to do the same thing I did. You can shoot somebody. You might think you can't, but I promise you, if they were going to hurt her or something like that, you could pull that trigger. And you could pull it maliciously over and over and over and over. You see where I'm at? And people don't know they have that inside of them. For a long time, I couldn't deal with that. It broke my heart once Jesus got in there. But anyway, I didn't change overnight. And right away, when I stood up, I said, still want to masturbate and I still don't like you. How about that? You know, it didn't change. And he said, son, it's like peeling an onion. God will take it away a little at a time. Right? I said, why do y'all come up here? I hate you. She said, man, it's the love of Jesus that brings us back. Wow, I did not understand the love of Jesus. What in the world? We got a detour going here. Woo. So, anyway, I get to prison and I get a job in the paper mill where they print up stuff. And let's say this business here needs 35 books to keep records in. We would print them up, sell it to them. All right, so, oh my goodness, we are turning around.
No, I missed the turn.
He missed the turn.
Oh, okay. All right, so
Before that detour.
after a while, one day they come in and they pull my apron up, and under the seam of the apron, right there in the end, there's a little X. And they say, "Yep, he's the one. Lock him up." I said, "Lock me up? I've been locked up for over a year now, man. What you talking about?" Well, see, I would dabble in my Bible. I'd read just a verse or two.
Okay.
And then I'd do other things.
Okay.
God knew what I needed. I didn't, but God knew that I needed to be separated from man so man couldn't teach me wrong. And I needed to be somewhere that he'd have my undivided attention. So they put me on lockup and they said, "You're guilty of this and it'll be a year before we come and talk to you again." So I just got up and left. I'm shackled and I just hobbled them. They said, "Come here, we got more to say." I said, "I want to hear a word you got to say. How about that? Talk to me in a year."
Yeah.
You know, still had a little attitude with me. So I got back to my cell, and during that time, I look in the piece of stainless steel they use for a mirror. I weighed 155 pounds of drugs had eaten me up, and life itself had made me so miserable that I was stressed and blah, blah, blah. I weighed 155. To give you an idea, I weigh 240 now, so you could tell, you could see every bone in my body, right? And would scrap, I mean, you could drop a card and I'd fight. I loved fighting. I remember Ice and somebody, Johnny was talking about, he was a bouncer, and Ice used to love to fight, and that was one of my favorite things, to fight. So, as time goes on, I said there's two things I want to do. I want to grow strong spiritually and physically. Now I'm in this cell by myself. I think I'm going to go crazy at first. And by the end of it, I didn't want to come off lockup. It was where to be. Because you didn't have to be in population smelling farts for one reason. Thought I'd just throw that in there.
I needed that.
And so, I send off for correspondence courses to learn about this Jesus, right? And one ain't enough, and two ain't enough, and three ain't enough, four ain't enough. And now I'm cycling them. I got them coming in as fast as I'm sending them out. It's just a rotating thing, and I'm learning. And what I'm learning is, like, I'm reading my Bible one night, and it said that the Israelites woke up on the edge of the Araba. I thought, what the f*** was an Araba? And nobody could tell me either. So, well, that night, so I'm standing there in my boxers, and the book cart comes by, and there's a thick book on there like that, and all the books have Central Prison with real black ink stamped into them, but that book didn't have any markings on it. So I said, let me get that book right there, man. And I put Freon on the top of it with a Sharpie. Now I'm in my boxers and I got me a book. I'm starting over. I got a new start now, right? I'm in a single cell by myself. I don't have anything but my book, right? So I look at the book and it says exhaustive concordance with the Greek and Hebrew dictionary. And I'm like, dictionary? Let's see what an Araba is. And they had a picture of the Arabian desert, and that's what Araba means, desert. They woke up on the edge of the desert. See? And so you know I'm being honest with you right now, right? So that sparked something in me. And I said, man, if I look up 10 words every day, I'll get to know this Jesus, right? So that's what I start doing, word searches and my correspondence courses. Now I'm really sponging and just loving this, learning about Jesus, right? And I can't be distracted. I'm by myself, right? So then one day this red, white, and blue envelope comes, and somebody had paid my tuition to go to Bible college through correspondence. And I'm like, whoa, dude, going back to school at 43 or something, right? And I'm like, I don't think I'll do this. I don't know. And it just, when I said that, it was like something heavy. That's the only way I know to explain. Something heavy. I just felt something heavy on me. It was like, you're going to do this, right? And so I thought, well, I'll do the first workbook, and if it's any count, then maybe I'll continue, right? Well, at the end of that workbook, I had to write a 7-page thesis. And I thought, where in the world will I get 7 pages of something to say, right? So I'm standing in the thing in my boxers with my little book, and the book cart comes back by, and there's another book on there that's about this thick. And I said, let me get that book, man. And I put Freon on it right away. Now I'm standing there in my boxers with 2 books. I'm building something now, man. So, and I'm feeling good about it too. And so I look at it, and it's called a Matthew Henry Commentary. Oh, you know what that is, don't you? A lot of people don't, and they say, what's that do? Well, he expounds on the scriptures. Whereas, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I'll fear no evil. See, it's a shadow. A shadow of a snake can't bite you, and a shadow of a sword can't cut you. And it's a walk through the valley for God's children. You see how much I added to the scriptures right there? That'd be a couple pages of writing. See? So 7 pages was nothing now that I got this concordance, right? So I do it, and I wind up graduating, getting my little certificate, you know. And I'm learning and learning and learning. So close to the time to the end of my lockup, they wanted somebody to be like a janitor. And at first I didn't want to come away from my studies. I was so into it now. My bed was just lined with books and papers, and they would give me pens and stuff, and I'm writing and sending stuff out, and man, it was just, I'm loving it. And I thought, I don't know, let me pray about it. Isn't that what everybody said? Let me pray about it. So usually you're saying no when you say, I don't know, let me think, let me pray about it. So I thought about it, prayed about it, and it felt like God was telling me that's what you need to do. You get to come out of your cell. See, you spend 23 hours in that cell. You come out for 45 minutes and walk around inside, and then you take 15 minutes to take a shower, and they put you back in there for 23 hours. And sometimes they'll take you outside and put you in a chain link cage the same size as your cell. Now, how's that wreck? I don't get it, you know what I mean? But sometimes I'd want to go out and let the sun shine on me. You know, it's been a year, you know, so I start cleaning up. After everybody does their rec time, you have to rec by yourself for that hour. So after everybody recs, then I come out and clean up and pass things. Like guy in number 2 want me to send something down to guy in 6, right? Or give me the newspaper. And there was a guy in 2 that I didn't know how to explain what it was. I didn't want to be around him. And later I learned that's a discerning spirit. You got to give you discernment about things. And I didn't want to be around this guy. He was evil. But one day he said, Freon, you don't ever talk to me, man. What's up? So we get to talking and kicking it. And I'm telling him about being in 17 foster homes and blah, 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 and going through my life. And we just, we're just talking. And then he says, get the newspaper for me. So I get the paper and I shoot it under the door. And he said, dude, the D section's not in here. And I said, man, I just sent you what was given to me. He said, you bastard. I'm like, do what? You a piece of crap. You been locked up, man. I said, dude. So I didn't want nothing else to do with him, and I ain't passing him nothing. Which I didn't realize that really set him off. So what he'd do was he would pee and poop in a bottle and then try and squirt it in my cell. We call that gassing. It would gas you. So I just packed garbage bags in the cracks of my door so it wouldn't come inside. But when it was time for me to wreck, I had to clean that up. So I remember that I had gone to church in my childhood. I didn't remember any of the words to the hymns, but I remembered the melodies. So I would be cleaning that poop up whistling. You know that song, don't you? See what I mean? Yeah. That melody again in your spirit. Wow, every one of you recognize that right away. And that's what I was doing, as I was cleaning up that poop. Poop.
Say poop.
Right. That ain't the word I was. Yeah. There you go. You toot and then you poop. Okay. So, and what that was God was making me an example for the other guys. See, I didn't know that at the time. So I just kept doing what I was feeling in my heart to do. And I kept studying. I didn't care about his hate. I was that guy one time. Remember? I spit on the preacher, told him I'd piss on his Bible. I hated him. I was that guy. See? Now God's changing me. Remember that peeling? It's happening. So, it comes time to come off, and I said, they opened the door and they said, Freon, you got to go back to population. And I said, no. They said, if you don't come out there, we're going to mace you and beat you down, and you're going to have to stay 3 more years. And I said, no, bring it on. Because you're going to take something back with you, And they said, Freon, this is going in your jacket. And I thought, Dad, blame it. If I ever do get an opportunity to make parole, they'll see that, right? So I better not do it. I said, okay. So I packed my stuff, went back to population. Well, now I'm a biker. I've always been a biker. I love riding. But I don't know if y'all notice, I always wear face gear. I cannot stand the wind on me. And that means I can't have a fan blowing right on me. And they put me on the first top bunk with a fan blowing right on me. My covers did this all night, and I was ready to kill something by the next morning. And this guy got real fly with me, so I jumped down and it was on. And the guard just happened to be walking by at the time. I wasn't aware of my surroundings at all. I just needed to deal with a situation. And I was the kind of guy that went into it head first, And so they stopped it right away before anything happened. And they moved me. But see, God was showing me that when I say I can't stand, that I can stand. I can stand it. He'll make a way for me to get through. And numerous times He did that for me in prison. In fact, I want to share a story with you. Not to get sidetracked or do what they call them rabbit trails, but one time I was at a camp and I wasn't working. You could work and make $5 or $7 a week. I could live real comfortable in there on $7 a week. But I wasn't working, and I don't have family now. I've been through 17 foster homes, remember? So there's no family out there sending me money. So I didn't have razors or program